So the Book of Margery Kempe is often referred to as the first autobiography in English. And that's broadly true. She had the book written down for her as the story of her life, the story of her spiritual conversion, the story of her pilgrimages, the story of her marriage, and the story of her prayers. But she didn't actually write it herself. She describes at the beginning of the book how she was commanded in her soul by God to have a book written, and she then tried to find someone who'd write it down for her. And this process is quite complicated. She first gets someone who wrote it down, but then it turned out he couldn't write very well in English, and so then two other people tried to read it and they couldn't, and then miraculously one of these people could read it, and this process is really quite convoluted. But basically, she used a scribe, an amanuensis, to write down her visions and her life. Why did she want to have this written down? Well, it wasn't common at all for somebody like Margery Kempe to have their life written while they were still alive. What was common was for a female saint or visionary to have a life written after their death, of their deeds, of their visions, of their miracles. But to be a holy woman in the Middle Ages, you needed to have a book written about you, a testament, if you like, to your holiness. And so on one level, that's what this book is recording. It's recording her spiritual wisdom, her spiritual conversion. Margery Kempe was very heavily influenced by St. Bridget of Sweden, who'd come slightly before her and was at this point a very popular saint in England. And St. Bridget herself had had a book written down, her Revelations, and a cult had been successfully formed around St. Bridget. And actually, when she was in Rome, Kempe visited St. Bridget's servants. And Kempe seems to have modelled her life to some extent on St. Bridget. And St. Bridget really showed how the book was a very powerful symbol of authorization, even if a male scribe actually wrote it down, or indeed perhaps because a male scribe wrote it down. So rather than seeing Kempe's scribes as taking her authority away from her, we could actually see them as giving her authority because the scribe who ends up writing her book is actually a priest. And so really that's her way into scribal culture, into literary culture, into the church. Early on in the book, Kempe says that she doesn't want people to read her book until after she's dead, which again suggests a kind of trying to make a saint's life, trying to make a testament. And also early on in the book, she tries to remain anonymous. This is described as the town of N rather than Lynn, and she's described as this creature rather than Margery Kempe. But as the book goes on, her identity kind of emerges. But what we see in the book is her crafting her life, or her life being crafted, along the lines of a saint's life. So it's a conversion, it's an ordeal, there's miracles, and there's saintly conversations or mystical conversations with Christ and the saints. And so really the shape of her life that we get from the Book of Margery Kempe is that of a medieval saint's life.